Hey guys, this is Callum from English Shooting and welcome back to the channel. As promised, as soon as there was any mention of the amounts of compensation that current Mars and lever release rifle owners would receive, I would make a video, and finally we have more information. So for those of you that don't know what I'm talking about, there was the Offensive Weapons Bill that received royal assent on the 16th of May 2019. With that receiving royal assent, it became law that Mars action rifles and lever release action rifles became Section 5. Why did they decide in the first place that these rifles needed to be reclassified? Well, that's because they are being deemed as rapid fire. Proven many times over and over again, these are not giving rates of fire up to the rates of semi-auto, yet the Home Office and NABIS and General Police love to refer to them as rapid fire rifles. So there's a bit of the backstory. Let's get in to the compensation. Now, this is a pretty crap situation for any of these owners, let's not forget, and really there has been no evidence to suggest that these guns are even attractive for criminals, and there's certainly never been a case of any of these guns being used within crime. So where the justification comes for these guns to be reclassified, I really don't know. It's just on the if, buts and maybes, and that's really not any way to be making laws. So I'm not saying I necessarily agree with the confiscation of these guns and reclassification of these guns, but what I will say is that given the circumstances, I think the compensation overall is pretty fair. Now, the compensation for each rifle depends on what mechanism and also what caliber. So going through them one by one, you can see that a lever release 9mm, you're going to get £2,240. A 45 ACP lever release is going to be £2,362. A 223 lever release, £4,445. A 308 lever release, £5,105, and the VZ58 Mars rifle in either the 5.56x45 or the 7.62x39, £1,950. Recent purchases of these rifles are going to recognize those prices, and the reason I think it's quite fair is that those prices are actually the retail price of those guns. It's very unlikely that people are going to lose out, and bearing in mind these guns have been around for a very long time, I think around 10 years, and of course with inflation, with prices rising, there's going to be a lot of owners out there that did pay a little bit less than the current today's retail price. So overall I think it's quite fair, and also there is the ability to request more. So let's just say you had some really special customization done to it, you had some unique cerakoting done, so on and so forth. There is the facility to be able to request more. You're probably then going to have to provide receipts, or certainly go and get a valuation of why your rifle is worth more than the stated compensation, but the process is there. So the very small silver lining out of all of this, despite effectively being shafted, taking away guns that really have demonstrated no threat to the public, the small silver lining is that nobody should be out of pocket. And then also within the compensation, there's also accessories. As you can see, there's a whole list of different accessories that you can also surrender with these guns. And the justification for this, or reasoning, is that within people's collections, there may not be any other suitable guns to receive these accessories if you just hand in the rifle themselves. So they're also building in, look, you might be left with a bunch of accessories that you're never going to use again, so because we're taking away the gun that you use them with, we're going to compensate you for them as well. And there's some fairly good prices. Of course, when you look at the optics, yes, people can go and spend a hell of a lot more than the figures that they're stating, but also there's a lot of people that have optics that are half the price of them. And I think overall the amounts for the accessories are fairly justified and fairly reasonable, and I think again there's going to be a lot of owners that are going to come out of this fairly quids in. Now, the main reason that I can deduce for them doing this and incentivizing people to surrender their accessories as well, is to make sure that complete guns are surrendered. Now, you should all be aware of the Paint It Pink campaign. This was started by Mike Lindsay, and the general premise is to paint your Mars or lever release gun in a garish pink, put unicorn stickers on it, Hello Kitty stickers on it, and it's a form of peaceful and quiet protest to basically say, look, I don't agree with this, but I'm surrendering it because it's now law. I'm a law-abiding citizen. I'm going to abide by the law, but I'm going to make it known that I'm not happy about it. And the best way to do that is to paint it pink. This also stops the line of trophy photos that the police love to do of all these dangerous guns being taken off the street. And we are already seeing this, despite this only being announced on the 10th of December and people only shortly after receiving these letters, they've already started these trophy style posts and pictures parading these guns, saying what a great job they're doing for public safety. Again, if they really were concerned about public safety, perhaps they should be going after the criminals, not the law-abiding gun owners, but that's probably a completely different topic. So there is this campaign to paint it pink, and I think the police aren't stupid. They understand that people are going to try and make things as difficult as possible because they don't necessarily agree with it. So they're trying to incentivize people giving complete guns so that they can show complete guns rather than a bag of bits. And on that note, there has been some pushback by some forces basically saying that if you surrender your gun in an unfit state, we may reduce or refuse compensation. Personally, I haven't had this confirmed, but personally, painting your gun a particular colour should have no effect on the compensation value. They're not reselling these guns, they are going to be destroyed. Why does the colour have any effect on the compensation? And I think this is once again a scare tactic to be able to, scare people into not painting them pink, so that again they have this huge line of guns and are able to put out these trophy photos. So yes, they're trying to make it as attractive as possible to be able to surrender a complete scary tactical looking gun as possible. The scheme is going to be running for 3 months, so I believe this takes it up to the 10th of March. If you are a current owner of a lever release or Mars action rifle, you do have to surrender that gun by the 10th of March during this 3-month period. If you are found in possession of the gun further than this, you will be violating a Section 5 offence, and that's something you definitely don't want to be doing. So you may not like it, you may disagree with it, but this is the law, and unfortunately you do have to abide by it. You do have to surrender these guns if you want to maintain your FAC and if you want to be a law-abiding citizen. How, where and when you surrender your gun will be down to your specific force. So if you have any questions, get in contact with your local firearms department. Don't go dropping these guns into just any old police station. Of course, with COVID at the moment and the fact that these are firearms, they don't want them just randomly turning up. So there will be a process, and that will depend on which county you live in. So get in contact with them. Don't sit and wait for somebody to contact you. Be proactive about it, get in touch, and make sure everything is recorded either through email, through signed for letters, and just so you've got a little bit of history to your conversation with them, so that if the worst happens, if no one gets in contact with you, no one tells you what to do, and the 9th or 10th of March comes round, then you're going to be able to go, look, I contacted you, I tried my best, no one's told me what to do here, and I'm not just wandering down the street with a gun to my local police station. So make sure you cover yourself, but I'm sure your local department will be in touch, but be proactive about it and make sure you get everything submitted as soon as possible for that compensation. The last thing you want is leaving it right to the last minute, not being able to get the compensation, but legally having to surrender the gun with nothing to show for it. Now, on the subject of forces contacting current owners, there's a very interesting letter that has gone out to all FAC holders within Hampshire, basically saying that you have to declare whether you have one of these guns, and it is your duty to surrender the gun by the 9th of March, otherwise you will be committing an offence. The reason this letter is interesting is because the way it's worded, it gives the impression that Hampshire don't actually know who is in possession of a Mars or lever release rifle. This is being sent out to every FAC holder, regardless of what guns they have, regardless of what calibers they have. And it's basically saying, look, it's on you to get in contact with us. And for me, this is incredibly dangerous. Royal Mail is not the most reliable forms of postal service. Things get lost, things get delayed, and especially around the Christmas time, the chances of something going missing, getting sent to the wrong address, or being delayed weeks and weeks and weeks is very, very high. And it looks like Hampshire are purely relying on a non-signed for standard service to inform potential owners that they need to comply. And what happens if, in the fairly likely situation that somebody doesn't receive one of these letters? If Hampshire are just relying on snail mail, the ramifications could be pretty huge, and there could be people that could genuinely, unknowingly, be made criminals overnight, lose their FAC, and even get 5 years in prison for having a Section 5 firearm without the adequate certification. The fact that they don't seem to know who actually has a Mars or lever release is quite scary as well. Now, working in a gun shop, when you sign over a firearm, you have to put the make and model. This will be stored somewhere in a database. So I would imagine it's fairly easy for somebody at Hampshire to be able to go through the database, and even if they just did it on make, even if they just sent these letters out to people who had Southern Gun Company rifles, be that a straight pull, lever release or otherwise, and anything that's Caledonian classic arms, that's going to narrow it down quite a bit, and most likely narrow it down to the number of people where it would be feasible for Hampshire to be able to phone each individual one and ensure that they have spoken directly and that the current owners have received this information quite easily. Instead, they're taking this blanket approach, which God knows how much that is costing. There's, I think, near 20,000 license holders within Hampshire. Yes, some of those, or the majority of those, will be shotgun certificates, but if you take it at the sort of normal ratio, it's about 25% of firearms certificates to 75% of shotgun certificates. So you're still talking 5,000 letters, around that figure, that is going to be sent out. Estimating £2 in time, resources, stamps, and so on and so forth to send these letters out to 5,000 people. Well, that's £10,000. So they've just gone and spent £10,000 sending these blanket letters to people, and they still don't have a guarantee that everyone is going to receive it. I think it would have been far more cost effective to use the databases that they have in place and phone. A phone call with local rates is absolutely free. So yes, it takes somebody a little bit more time to sit there and dial, but still somebody has had to sit there and stamp, address, and stick one of these letters in an envelope and drop it down the post office. So really, I think it would have been a lot cheaper and a lot more efficient of them to do it that way. But unfortunately, this just sort of seems to tie up with Hampshire's attitude to firearms ownership. It's creating a potential hole for firearms owners to fall in so that they can then remove their licenses and give them criminal charges. It's a win-win for Hampshire on this one. They can sort of just sit back and let people make their own mistakes, and when they do, they're obviously going to get severely punished for it. So yes, I think they could have done a lot better with this whole scheme and this letter, but it comes down to county by county. Some are doing it a lot better than others, and they all have their different ways of doing it. I would have liked to have seen the county that I'm under do it a little bit more efficiently, save a little bit more taxpayers' money, and also do it in a way that won't potentially let people slip through the cracks and become criminals overnight. So there we go, guys. That really is everything. I will put the links to all the information in the description below so that you can go and read it up yourself. But there's the overview of the compensation for the Mars and lever release rifles. You have until the 9th or 10th of March 2021 to get this in place and get the rifle surrendered. Otherwise, you will be committing an offence, so please make sure you do that. But there we go. Thank you very much for watching this video. I really hope you found it useful, informative, and have enjoyed it. If you did, please give it a big thumbs up, and please give this a share around so that as many Mars and lever release owners are aware of it, and also make sure you're subscribed for any future videos. And as always guys, I hope to see you soon.